time, space, causation, cause and effect. Space, our sense perceptions, time, and a stream of sequencing of this happened and then this happened and this happened. It's all part of this projection. All part of our ignorance, thinking this is real. All right. We have waited long enough. It's time to talk about time. What does this ancient philosophy, this timeless philosophy, say about time? Well, I just said it. This philosophy is timeless. These concepts, though they technically exist in time, because reality, truth, is beyond all concepts, it is, as this philosophy says, also beyond time. The phenomena of the world is often called a phenomena of time, space, causation within this philosophy. Space, as we discussed, we actually just did an episode on the dream example. Space, according to this philosophy, take it or leave it, is not real. This space that we see, the room that you might find yourself in, the car you might be driving. As you listen to this philosophy, and I highly recommend you go check out that episode if you haven't yet, give a lot more color than what I'm giving to it now, of how it rationally explains space as not being real, as not reality. Much like the dream example, where that room that you were in last night in the middle of the dream, or whatever you're doing in that dream, was not real, even though you're convinced it was. This philosophy says the same thing about time. That time is a part of this illusion. I don't know if I've discussed this on the podcast before, but it's worth its own reflection, and it's worth reflecting on for maybe many days, if not weeks, if not months, maybe lifetimes, to try to even scratch it, grasping what this philosophy says about time. Time is something that we experience in the relative sense, in the same way that we experience a dream, but it is part of the illusion in the same way that the dream is an illusion. It's an experience, but it's not reality. You weren't in that room. You aren't in that dream. You're asleep in a bed. Similarly, in that dream, there was time, a projection. If you think about, well, why are we in the kitchen right now? You project out, oh, well, we came from over there. We just arrived to this friend's apartment from that other location. You project out a series of experiences, a sequence that then we call time. Similarly, right now, you and I only have right now. We don't know anybody that has jumped to the past and then come back to the now. You and I and all the people we've ever met or ever heard about, we don't know anybody that has jumped to the future and come back to the now. This philosophy says all we have is an eternal now. It's all we've ever had. There is no concept of this linear thing called time that we are riding like a roller coaster or riding like a bullet train. Even when it gets into concepts like reincarnation, which is just coming into experience again and again and again. The sophisticated philosophical breakdown of reincarnation is just experience after experience after experience, a stream of experiences. Just like you'd reincarnate every day that you wake up, or you go from this meeting to this meeting. It's a new experience, and there is no, the sophisticated philosophical explanation is not, all right, and then you're going to come back. You die in 1972, you're coming back 1972, 1 month later, and you're going to be a baby, and then an adult, and then old age, and you do it again in 2036, because that would assume that there's this linear thing called time and a timeline. You leave in 1972, you got to come back in August, you got to come back in September or October. Or I can't go back to 1923. There is no such thing, not two, non-duality within this philosophy. This philosophy is saying you are all that there is. There's nothing outside who you really are, not the The illusion, the dream version, the elevated version of a dream of this waking state that you think you are, much like you were not the dreamer last night that was in the middle of a scenario, dramatic scenario that you didn't know what was going to happen, what was going to play out, quote unquote, in time of that dream that wasn't real. You didn't know what was going to happen in an entire world that you manifested and were projecting. You were making up every aspect of it, and yet you yourself didn't know what was about to happen. That time in that dream arose with the other subjects, arose with you in whatever body or whatever clothing you're in. It all arose together. And this waking state, this elevated version of that dream, as the waking state is called in this philosophy, this elevated version of the dream is no different. You have time, space, causation, cause and effect. Space and our sense perceptions, time, and a stream of sequencing of this happened and then this happened and this happened. It's all part of this projection. All part of our ignorance, thinking this is real. All part of an ignorance thinking this is real, just like in a dream, you might think, well, this is a continuation of an entire life if I think about it. Oh yeah, I remember actually having a dream recently where I had in the dream, I was in a room watching a movie and I had a memory of, oh yeah, I saw the premiere of this movie with, what is his name? The name of the actor is Ben Stiller. He's in the movie. Oh, I saw the premiere of this at a Netflix festival with Ben Stiller. It was a projection of seeing the movie and a projection of a memory that had happened before that never happened. But a complete certainty in the midst of these projections of like, oh yeah, I remember, blah, blah, blah. And none of it had happened. None of it was real. So this philosophy says, similarly, time is part of the magic of this illusion. The word magic, by the way, comes from magi. The root of the word magi is knower. The magician, the magi, they are the knowers. The root of magic also goes back to the same root as matter or mother, the root being Maya, the Sanskrit word for illusion. It's funny that the word matter, that we lean on linguistically to point to what's real, the root of the word matter is illusion, which couldn't be more appropriate for all of the physicists in the last century that just keep discovering nothingness and nothingness and more nothingness and more nothingness as we try and basically stop trying to find the substratum, the substance of the universe. And all we find is more nothingness. Slight, but also slightly relevant tangent. So what does this philosophy say about time? Well, quite bluntly, it says it is not real. It is part of the projection. There is no independent thing you come in and out of called time. There was no past. It's just when we project our attention onto it, we project out a sequence of events that have brought us to the now. There is no future. It is just whatever now is unfolding. And if we want to put our attention on projecting out where we think it'll go, by all means, we can do that. We can feast on a myriad of different futures that might unfold. But in the midst of episodes and reflections that are typically on the practical aspects of this philosophy in our daily lives, sometimes it is fun to dive into the deep end, whether it was yesterday in the dream example or today with what this philosophy says about time. And as trippy as it sounds, just like yesterday when we say, go back to the dream example, was time real in that dream that you had last night? Was that sequence of events real, or was it part of the projection of your mind? And that's what this philosophy says is happening in the waking state. Something we're so certain of that it's absurd to even to even motion at anything other than time being real. It's got to be real. And what does this philosophy say? It says, like our projection of space, it is a manifestation of our minds, part of Maya. And even with practical examples, like what time is it on the sun, that destroy this concept that we are convinced our entire existence is built on. There is no time on the sun. Time is a convention. Even in the practical sense, this philosophy takes it even further and says that sun, you could say, there is no time on the sun. It's not 12:30 on the sun. But you could say, well, it exists in a term of years. When it was born in the Big Bang, and this philosophy goes from eviscerating it further, way past the point of just the practical example that points to its made-up nature, its conventional nature, like the example of what time is it on the sun. It says, yeah, the sun, this timing, this dating of things, a Big Bang, this sequence of events, it is all part of the projection. And it is destined for the same result as we have when we look for matter. And with it being part of the projection, it is not real. We're not meant to skip levels and say, well, it's conceptually not real, so I'm not going to abide by it. This philosophy, even though it says space is not real, does not say jump off of a building. You need to know our level. We all need to know our level. And I can speak for myself. I think time is real. I'm convinced it is real, even though conceptually, philosophically, I'm told that it's not. But like I said, every once in a while, within this podcast project, we touch on the really deep end of the pool, even if it's beyond our practical grasp, because it opens our minds to maybe reality is much different than what I perceive. That's today's reflection on Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.